Welcome back from the break. While it's clear that the world is increasingly embracing virtual and hybrid commerce experiences, we're also seeing many organizations work to improve the way we shop in a physical setting. Next up, Square's head of marketing, Lauren Weinberg, chats with Jeanette Smirka, Chris McConaughey, and Ben Hartard about our partnership with SoFi Stadium. Hear how the team enhanced beverage and retail experiences and unified vendor solutions into a robust and cohesive system, ready to handle the Super Bowl. But first, let's take a look at this partnership in action.
SoFi Stadium is the most ambitious stadium project in the world, and that goes from everything from the approach, the structural engineering of the building, and the technology as well. You have to have foundational elements to everything that you do in a building like that. You get the best, absolutely world-class partners to help you build that foundation, right? You talk to Samsung about displays and TVs. You talk to Cisco about networking and wireless. Then you talk to Square about transactional technologies, and you build a platform that is cohesive, which allows us then to build on top of that from an experience and an application standpoint.
We really thought about the future. Being able to service and create a great, very customized fan experience was important for us, and Square was on the forefront of that in terms of innovation. Being all things to everyone in terms of the ability to interact and have point-of-sale experiences. It's so diverse across the entire 300 acres, and it's really important for us, again, to make sure that we get it right.
Quite honestly, when Square came and presented to us, you know, as a software engineer, as a computer scientist, I was absolutely blown away by just how different the Square presentation was from the others. This is very much a technology company. That was, to me, immediately incredibly important because we knew we had to do integrations. We needed a single source of truth, basically to manage our menus and our pricing, and we needed to distribute those things to our mobile apps, to our menu board systems, in addition to presenting that on our point-of-sale presence devices.
To incorporate Square into SoFi Stadium was a no-brainer. Their credibility, their experience, and their systems were incredible from the very beginning. And then combining that with the innovation and knowing that as we evolve, that they're going to be right there with us, shoulder to shoulder. And so we're excited to certainly be partnering with Square.
Thank you, Shantae. Jeanette, Chris, and Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we get started, I want to share a little bit about our panelists. First off, we have Jeanette Smirka. Jeanette is the Vice President of Information Technology of SoFi Stadium in Hollywood Park. She is joined today by Chris McConaughey, who is Legends General Manager of Hospitality at SoFi Stadium. And last, but certainly not least, we have Square's very own Ben Hartard, the software engineer who worked tirelessly on getting this partnership off the ground. Jeanette, I would love for you to kick us off and just tell us a little bit about the background of this project and SoFi Stadium's partnership with Square. To begin with, what was the vision for what you wanted to accomplish with this stadium, and what were some of your goals going in?
Thanks so much. You know, SoFi Stadium really had the best foundation for us to build off of. It was such a unique opportunity. You know, we had the best connectivity between state-of-the-art DAS and Wi-Fi. We knew we were the most connected venue ever. And the stadium, of course, is absolutely stunning. Guests were going to be awestruck. Even with COVID, before we opened to the public, players were coming in and like taking selfies on the field. Simply an amazing footprint for us to start with. So we had seen congestion and challenges at other stadiums and knew that we had to do better. We had to take a different approach. Most of us had experienced Square in our personal lives, and many of us had also worked with Square on the back end, seeing how simple it is to deploy and activate, and of course, you know, simple for our staff and our customers, really easy for us to manage. But we also knew that Square provided greater opportunities for integration, data reporting, compared to traditional point of sale. we knew that we wanted more than just per caps, right? We needed to understand information about real-time sales. Which beer is selling better at this concert? Do we need more popcorn ready for the hawkers? When should we get that next round of sushi prepped and ready to go? And we just saw Square as a better way for us to understand and connect with our customers.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And Chris, just turning it over to you for a second. Compared to other stadiums, what were some of the unique challenges that SoFi Stadium posed from a concessions, quick service, and retail perspective?
Sure. Obviously being an outdoor venue, we have what we call stage kitchens. Traditionally in old buildings or, previously built buildings, concessions are normally done in what you call the curtain format, which you have a belly up counter, the point of sale resides at the counter, and most of the preparation of food happens behind the scenes. For us, we have what we call a 320 degree view of everything that's happening inside the stand. The point of sale has been removed from the actual stand itself, and they are being utilized on pedestals with the guest, which gives us a lot of flexibility in our programming, and it was done by design. So naturally, we started with the idea that you could, do person-to-person interactions with ordering at the point of sale. And then knowing once we understood the workflow, right, being a brand new building and having guests finally get in and navigate and really start dictating what their experience should be, that podium then allows us to convert into kiosk ordering. And then it also allows us to go one step further. And when we get into mobile ordering or further into the conversation, allows that to be almost a KDS pickup location. So really by design for us, some of the challenges we had was really, we took technology from the beginning and put it into the building where most buildings are challenged by adding technology after the fact. We've had the luxury, Jeanette and I both talk about it constantly, of actually designing something with technology in mind. And with that came the selection of our partner, as Jeanette just alluded to, for all of the right reasons. It just seemed like a faster, easier, simpler way by going with Square, both on the we will call it front of house user, the consumer, when we finally get to them being the integral part of the service, as well as the data and analytics that come out from the back end.
Amazing. I think it's so cool that you were able to really design the stadium with all of this technology in mind. And I wanted to just ask you another quick question for everyone out there who's not necessarily an expert in all things related to stadiums and arenas, but how would you say concessions differ from other food and beverage operations? And you touched on that a little bit in the last question, but I thought maybe you could share a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So, naturally for us, we put our culinary on display. And I would rightfully say that, technology is a close second, right? As Jeanette alluded to, when you first walk into this building, you are flabbergasted by the screen, and then all of the LED and the ribbon boards and the directionals that you're going to find, which then all point to the second best thing that's happening for any event, whether that's a concert or whether that's football, right? Becomes the hospitality side. That's my job, is delivering an experience. So with the concessions piece, it becomes an integral part of the fan's journey, right? There's two things that have to happen: quality food and a speed of service. And technology and the way we've designed the building has given us that platform to do both.
Awesome. And Jeanette, I want to jump back to you for a second. Can you explain, and you both sort of touched on this idea that technology was really part of your plans from the very beginning, but how did the technology infrastructure really support the overall vision that you had for what concessions would be like at SoFi Stadium?
Absolutely. I think, like Chris mentioned, it was a unique physical footprint, right? And so having, a partner like Square allows us to have, really, concise, small and mobile devices, right? That allow us to put them, and create a better customer interaction physically when it comes to the actual hardware. I think a lot of it is on the back end as well, right? The actual architecture that Square provides on the back end, right? Being able to have partners when it comes to inventory. So real time, we can see, right? Are we selling out? Can we make an adjustment because things are more popular than we expected? We've got opportunities for dynamic pricing, Obviously the menu boards can all be integrated, directly with the point of sale because, again, we've got these robust APIs on the back end. Tons of opportunity for integration when it comes to, different ways that we might interact with guests longer term. And then certainly just being able to, the data, right? I can't say enough. Being able to slice and dice that in unique ways certainly puts, Square heads and shoulders above their peers. And then, of course, the customer relationship. For us, we have a huge opportunity to build that relationship with the customer and being able to understand their purchasing behavior, what interests them longer term is really important to us. And so being able to start that from day one by actually building a relationship versus selling a hot dog, tremendous game changer.
I love hearing just both of you talk about just the commitment to the fan experience and all the things that you thought about when you were thinking about your vision for the stadium to just make it the best experience for fans everywhere. So congratulations to both of you on such an incredible accomplishment. Chris, is there anything that you would want to add in terms of just like your thoughts on the overall vision for Concessions as well?
Yeah, well, I think we live in a world of technology, right? Everything, I always say the cashier is going to be replaced by the phone in their pocket. And I think that, as we look at our partners and the synergies between the platforms, as Jeanette just alluded to, Square gave us the biggest opportunity to do that. They not only came out of the box with something that's sleek, easy to use, but more importantly is, I would say, the commitment from them on their side to work with us on exactly your point, which is, what is our vision? How do we see the journey? How do we see our building being represented? What's important to us and our fan experience? And then the willingness to really stand stride for stride in the trenches and navigate through that together. That's just something that is, untangible in most scenarios. But I think we've been very lucky with this partner moving forward.
So you both have touched on this a little bit, but Jeanette, I just wanted to ask one last time because it kind of is the $1 million question, but you obviously had lots of choices. So why in the end did you decide to ultimately partner with Square?
It was really the perfect combination of hardware, data, and architecture, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the hardware just works, right? We don't have to worry about devices going down. It's so easy for, again, both the customer and the staff to use, as well as for, IT to be able to maintain. So, the hardware was just, again, so superior to what we see elsewhere in the industry. The data, I can't say enough about the data, right? And the APIs, it makes it so easy to be able to move data back and forth with Square, and that whole partner ecosystem. And again, that goes back to the architecture, right? It's nimble, it's designed to work with partners and for us to extend off of the platform. So to me, that was just, a huge game changer, being able to work with a partner who understands all of these aspects. And to be able to work with us to take all of these features and extend them to meet our vision to work with the customers.
Thank you for that. I love data too, so I totally get that. Jeanette and Chris, I'm going to give you a break for a second and we're going to go over to Ben. Ben, wanted to hear a little bit about just your background and involvement in this project, and also would love to hear from you just what were some of the previous projects that you worked on that really informed the technical decisions that we ended up making for SoFi Stadium?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Lauren. It's great to see everybody again. I know we worked together a lot in the early stages. So I served as Square's technical lead, and I worked closely with SoFi, Hollywood Park, Legends, and all of their third-party consultants on everything related to architectural design and ideation. I'm going to skip around a little bit because stadiums are not new to Square. We actually have a rich history in the stadium and event space, everything from Coachella and Stagecoach to working with the WWE, world-renowned acts like Taylor Swift. We even power entire ski resorts, which look a lot like larger stadium and event spaces. I think the most relevant is probably in 2019, we partnered with the $1.4 billion Chase Center, a little bit smaller scale than SoFi. And we powered their entire food and beverage concessions and hawking business there as well. But if you think of Square and our expertise and our millions of merchants, we work across pretty much every vertical. right? Food and beverage, retail, services. And if you think of what stadiums are and what they represent as a merchant footprint, it combines food and beverage, retail, and services into really just creating a memorable customer experience. And we heard customer experience a lot in the conversations with the Sofi and Legends teams. So what we did is we had these technical discovery phase, and we had a lot of whiteboarding sessions with different teams. And in these multi-hour long collaborative meetings, we helped to finalize the appropriate technical architecture, which changed, which I'll get into, taking into consideration things like the unique stadium design with the pedestals, all the different ordering channels that they wanted to introduce with point of sale, kiosk, mobile, etc. Customer loyalty. We even touched a little bit on customer data, lifetime value, marketing attribution, and just generally, what was the visualization of the end-to-end customer purchasing journeys and all the different order fulfillment workflows that we were trying to get through. And ultimately, these sessions I thought were amazing, and I want to build more relationships like this because it allowed us to apply our learnings from these previous venue spaces, like when to use kiosks or point of sale and when not to use them. And it allowed us to create a uniformity and consistency with all the solutions partners all coming together on one unified set of APIs, one unified data model, and one scalable API for source of truth.
Well, you make it all sound really easy, but I'm sure it was really hard. And speaking of hard things, I know just generally in life, some of our biggest learnings come from challenging moments. So I'm curious to know, what were some of the unforeseen hurdles that you ran into during this project?
Yeah, so we got into it really early, and it's been touched on a little bit with what Chris mentioned today, which is in these early conversations, Sofi and Legends came to us and they said, we have this vision of concession stands as fulfillment centers. And that completely changed all of our architectural assumptions from day one. And I kind of want to just like help visualize and paint the picture of what that means. And this is how we understood it. Imagine yourself in a drive-through line at McDonald's or any fast food restaurant, and you're now stuck behind the person ordering in a screen in front of you. And then you're stuck behind someone at a window receiving your order. And that line could be quick, it could be slow, but you're beholden to the people in front and behind you for that experience. So let's reimagine that. Let's imagine everyone has their own personal ordering screen, whether it's working directly with a cashier or a mobile app or a kiosk. And let's imagine 20 pickup windows. So now, all of a sudden, we have the ability to take orders from wherever they came and send them to a unique pickup window that would optimize for line speed and help create a better customer experience, all based on the fulfillment component, all based on how the operations team can optimize for fulfillment. And it quickly became clear that like our plug-in, or not ours, but any plug-and-play point of sale or fixed kiosk deployment just simply wouldn't make this vision come to reality. There's a lot of complexities that Chris mentioned related to the glass enclosures, separating concessions kitchens from the fans, pedestals separate from the actual physical concession stands, introduction of different ordering channels like points of sale, kiosk, mobile, in-seat dining, private suites, pretty much any future channel or future payment that they want to introduce. And we really just realized we needed a stadium-wide dynamic order routing, like some crazy thing that doesn't exist, right? Like we need to be able to dynamically send orders to fulfillment centers and kitchens to create the best possible experience. And they put this on a whiteboard and we're like, okay, let's make this work. So at the end of the day, we made it work, and we didn't rely solely on a point of sale or a kiosk. We relied heavily on open APIs and a platform approach, and working closely with solutions partners, including Deloitte, and who used our APIs to create a mobile application for real-time access to cross concessions inventory, pricing, order creation, payment acceptance. We worked with Yellow Dog Software, who provided software for managing concessions and operations across hundreds of stand locations using catalog and inventory APIs. We worked with several digital signage partners and IPTVs who tapped in for real-time inventory, where Jeanette mentioned around real-time price changes and availability and messaging that out to customers, as well as order queues. And finally, we worked with a partner called Grubber with self-ordering and digital kiosk solutions, who brought it all together with a custom KDS for SoFi Stadium that allowed them to use Square's order APIs to read from all the order channels we've been mentioning and future channels, and then route them dynamically based on where we want to have that customer pick up the order. Like absolutely amazing stuff. And it was possible because the stadium was designed from the ground up to enable this use of technology. And not all this is technically live today, but the main picture here is that the underlying architecture is built to support these use cases. And really anything that their teams at Sofi and Legends can think of, we're going to be able to support going forward.
That's absolutely incredible hearing just all that went into making this amazing experience for fans. Chris, I want to turn it back to you for a second. When you look back at this partnership with Square and the whole vision coming to life, what are you most proud of accomplishing?
Ooh, man, there's so much to kind of put on the board, if you will. What I would say is that, to Ben's point, right? Most time when you get into a whiteboard session, that theory of just throw it against the wall and we'll see what sticks. Well, good for all of us. All of it stuck. We threw it at the board and we said, hey, this is where we want to go. Most people would really plan, call it methodically, step by step of, well, let's get over this threshold and then we'll think about the next one and the next one and the next one. I think what I'm most proud of, we actually sat down and said, what is our end-to-end result? Where do we want to go? And let's actually, to Ben's point and Jeanette's point earlier, let's build the framework. It's not all going to be, out of the gate day one, but we are going to get to the end result. And I believe that we've built the infrastructure, the back of house, the key components and the mindset to get us there. And I'm proud of that, knowing that there is an end goal that is 100% achievable. And really right now it's just time and resource and schedule, right? That allows us to get to where we need to be. And truly the partnership, technology is not for like most people to just sit down and go, I pick up my phone, I can use maybe 10% of what the phone does. I've learned more about technology in this building with working with Ben and working with Jeanette and the entire IT team. IT is only as good as you use it, number one, and data is only as good as you use it, right? There's a lot of data out there, and having a platform that you can actually get it and build a business model based off of it is something to be proud of, right? Because it's not gut instinct. It's not, this is what I've done in the past. This is what we've done in another venue. Similar to Ben, prior to making the decision, we went out and we visited all of the venues they were in. We went and saw what they were currently doing and currently working on to ensure that where our end goal was and our vision was going to be was something that we truly wanted it to be for Sofi. So I'm proud of the partnership. I'm proud of the technology, and I'm proud of the end result that we're going to get to here, call it in the next season or two.
I mean, there's so much to be proud of. Thank you for sharing that. And Jeanette, we're going to close out with you today. It sounds like we've accomplished so much already, but I'm sure there's still more to do. So as you think about the future, where do you want to take the food and beverage and retail experience at SoFi Stadium? What are some of the things that you haven't gotten to yet that you're most looking forward to?
That's a great question. On top of really finishing our first season, and what a season it was, we've learned a ton about, even our physical building, right? How to use these spaces well, as well as the technology. And so I think, as Ben mentioned, we have so many tools in the toolkit, right? And so I'm really looking forward to working with Chris and deciding what it is that we want to do next, right? Which piece is going to make the most sense and provide the best value to our customers. And I think part of that as well is looking at the data, right? Because we have this amazing data, our analytics team has created some fantastic dashboards that really help us understand what's working, what's not working, right? Where can we make these adjustments? So I'm looking forward to really, candidly, like playing with all of these tools and the data, right? Let's try this here and see if it works. Let's try that there, see if it works. Because the foundation is designed to be so nimble, we really can do a ton of A/B testing and just see what's going to provide the best value moving forward. Is that in-seat ordering? Is it mobile delivery? Is it, just, ordering on your phone? There's so many opportunities. And because we can do all of them, we just are able to test and trial and see what works best. So to me, it's just playing with all of these tools and finding out where we can provide the best value.
Well, thank you so much to Jeanette and Chris and Ben for sharing so many valuable insights about the inner workings of this partnership. And to those of you that are tuning in, thank you for joining us at this year's Unboxed, and back to you, Shantae.
What an inventive undertaking for bringing such a cohesive retail experience to an event the size of the Super Bowl. It's amazing the things that we can do.